Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is finally time for the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Not only in Division 1 where we're at tonight, but in just 2 hours' time. It's actually less than that. Yeah, well, actually, yeah, just about exactly 2 hours' time will be the first practice session in Las Vegas. And let me tell you something, I am very excited for this. This marks, today, as a matter of fact, 13 months to the day when I was in Las Vegas. I remember that was my dad's birthday, his 60th birthday we celebrated that year. And in looking at this track map and looking at the sites around it and looking at the pictures that I had of them working on the circuit and just the strip itself, the nostalgia is so much coming back to me right now. This is unbelievable. I personally am very, very excited to see this race. A lot of the F1 fans themselves have not necessarily felt that way. I suspect they're having a little bit of the vegetable syndrome. What I mean by that is you try to give a little kid vegetables for the first time, he automatically goes into it assuming that he's not going to like it because, you know, they're vegetables. But as he gets older and as he tries it more, he will enjoy vegetables. I hate the fact that that's the way I describe it, but that's really how I feel it is. People, I don't think, you know, are giving this circuit a fair chance. They haven't even raced on it yet. I know my mind is going to be heavily influenced from this race here today. I mean, again, this is our precursor to, you know, the real life session that happens in just a couple of hours' time. So this is going to be something here. I cannot wait. And this track is actually decently difficult. We'll go over all that in just a little bit. Right now, let's go over the drivers and constructor standings for my first track into Division 1. As it turns out, there's been a lot that I haven't been around for so far. What I am around for at the moment is Aero Racing Design is going to be the first driver out on track today. Your driver's championship at the moment looks like this. Got Palmer atop the table by 10 points over Ryan Rod's 121 to 111 race day in third at 94. He's actually tied with Scornsey for that third spot, 94 apiece. Aero Racing Design and Lancey tied for fifth at 86 apiece. Cynical in seventh at 80. Edwin 75, Shirai 72. Nikki rounds out the top 10 at 70 points. It's a bit of a gap behind them, 11 points back to Gunnar Addy for P11. But Aero Racing Design here, the first Division 1 driver to ever, in a Midwest sanctioned event, to be taking a lap around the Las Vegas circuit here. Actually, as I say that, Cake Thomas has gotten ahead of him somehow. I'm not rightly sure how that's happened. But there's a lot going on in the circuit. You know, this is a street circuit, so it's going to mean some difficulty, you know, getting the power down. It's going to be definitely something to keep your eye on here as Cake Thomas makes his way past Treasure Island, past the Mirage, down the straight here towards Caesar's Palace on the right-hand side with Flamingo across. They'll then get to Paris and then the Bellagio, who's found... That's Hell's Kitchen right there, by the way, Gordon Ramsay's restaurant. There's the Bellagio on the side. They'll head into the corner of Cosmopolitan here on the right side with Planet Hollywood on the inside. And let me tell you something. Jesus, I forgot how much of this I actually remember. This is crazy. Aero Racing Design coming up Harmon Avenue now, about to make his way towards the Topgolf. I didn't actually recall there being a Topgolf there when I was there last year, but there is. And to the start goes Aero Racing Design, the first ever timed lap here. In towards turn 1, it's a very long first corner here, which people don't realize. Exiting the corner does get quite narrow, and oh, by the way, it's still a street circuit. There's going to be not a lot of traction getting out of it. DRS activated down Koval Lane here, making his way towards Caesar Forum. This bit of the track reminds me a lot of Singapore because, you know, it's a tight corner, high speed, and the wall really does creep up on you around the left-hand side. Onto Westchester Drive now, round towards the Sphere on the, you're inside there, which they've actually added a bit of a chicane to this part of the track, and with that chicane have added some raised curbs, which they've added around the circuit. Those raised curbs have proven, at least in my opinion, to be absolutely detrimental in my time trial abilities after Sector 1, through Sands Avenue, making his way to the Wynn and the Fashion Show Mall on the outside, through turn 12, and again, the corner is slightly, has a little kink there with the raised curb. It kind of sets it up very difficult, so you don't get that clean of a run down the strip here. Making his way past Caesar's Palace down the boulevard here, at the moment, almost about to get to the corner. He's at 220 miles an hour, and he's not even there yet. Peaks at 220 before the braking zone, down into third gear at Planet Hollywood. Another raised curve on the inside there. You can kind of straddle that one, but not so much. You got to really be careful with the car bottoming out here. Down Harmon Avenue, past the Top Golf, and back onto the start-finish straight here. It's a 132.411 for the first ever lap around this circuit here in the Midwest F1 League. And behind him, Cake Thomas, it's actually Electric Blade, 133.338, and behind him, Cake Thomas, 132.892. And at the moment, it's half a second that Aero Racing Design has over the rest of the field. Jimmy Murphy, now this is a name I haven't seen before. At the moment, he's P4 at the moment, about second and a half behind the rest of the grid. Next up, we do have the Haas of Scavney making his way up Harmon Avenue now towards the Top Golf and to the start-finish line. Out of the final corner he goes. He hits about 199 crossing the line. Never mind getting into the corner, and you can see there the back end of the cars come around as Scott Palmer 131.927. That's a new fastest lap of the session. That puts about half a second back to Aero Racing Design, and then Scornsey 0.4 of a second behind that, and Scornsey's just come through and finished a timed lap himself. Is there anyone else coming through on a timed lap here? We've got Lightwork in the AlphaTauri, I believe. Race Day has just crossed the line. He's gone P4. Lightwork to the line now. He is heading towards Top Golf out of the final corner. And I believe this is going to be the one to start here. He's well off the pace, but I think that was more of just a reconnaissance lap here. Is this going to be his time one? Let's go along with Lightwork. As you can see, very long second corner here through the Rochdale Avenue intersection, exiting the corner. This track really is going to be, I think, more about how easily the cars and the drivers are going to be able to put the power down and how quickly they can accelerate, because again, this is a street circuit. It's very similar to, say, Baku, where there's just no camber in the corners. There's not much lateral grip. The car will slide on the back end, and that is going to prevent the cars from accelerating quickly. We're going to see a lot of short shifting. We're going to see a lot of sliding about, especially here in the early stages while we're still all getting acclimated to the circuit, as Ryan Rods goes 131.865 and puts himself 6/100ths over Gott Palmer, who has occupied the top spot at the moment. As it looks like Lightwork's lap, I don't know. I was going to say bad about it. I wasn't really paying attention. I was more or less rambling. Let's see what kind of speeds he's hitting here at the end of the boulevard here. Caesar's Palace on the right, Cosmopolitan up ahead in the distance. 217. At the braking zone, he's 218 miles an hour. So that's 2 miles an hour slower than what we saw at Aero Racing Design. That was our first time lap. Is there anyone else on a flyer behind? It looks like it's Edwin coming through here. Well, he's about 215, and he's out of battery. And I don't think... Is it going to be a lap to look out for here? Well, he straddled the curb on the inside. I'm not entirely sure. I think he's going to be coming in at the end of the lap here, but you never know. Yeah, he will. He's well off the pace. So I've only just realized that now, to be fair. Postwell's on a slow one as well, and it has to be said, the grid coming back into the pits now is Race Day. Is he going to be starting one here? It kind of looks like he is. His battery's at about 70%. Recharge light isn't on. I'm going to go ahead and say Race Day might be giving it a go here as he makes his way through Rochelle Avenue. Down Koval Lane now towards Caesars Forum of Turn 5 and Westchester Drive after that, and eventually the Sphere, which I heard they've actually done some doing about with the Sphere to make sure that it's not too bright and not too many odd colors are being displayed that could distract the drivers. I tell you what, it's distracting me, and I'm just the caster here. Race Day making his way through the rest of Sector 1 here. A lot of, short shifting there. That's what we just saw. He had to really have some patience getting onto the throttle. He's gone purple Sector 1 at the moment. Look how precisely he makes his way. Now, this is the tricky part here. This corner, he's taking it quite wide, actually. You take it too much to the inside, the curb is, again, it's an elevated curb. There's no runoff if you bottom out over it and you start to slide off. You're going to go head-on into the wall, and that's what we're going to be afraid of here as far as when the race gets going. 200 miles an hour now as he heads past Caesar's Palace. Was that a lift there for some reason? I'm not quite sure. He was purple Sector 1. Why is he lifted in towards Planet Hollywood and the Cosmopolitan, and he has cut the corner. So that will be the end of this lap for Race Day 2016. Cake Thomas is on an out lap here. Currently sits ninth, about a flat second behind GSR Ryan Rods, who currently occupies pole. Tell you what, 1 second separating the top 9, second and a half amongst the top 10. That's not a bad statistic to have at all. Jake Thomas will hit 204 miles an hour by the time he gets into the braking zone of turn 1. Wide first corner. That's going to be a fun one in the race. I tell you what, you get 2 lanes of a track like that, 2 lanes of corner, where there's not really anything creeping up on you on the outside until after you get to the corner. You know, that kind of does remind me, it has to be said, of Qatar. That first corner, you know, you can go side by side into it, and there's no real pinchy section of the track until right here at Caesars Forum. Jake Thomas making his way towards the sphere now. Oh, you see the back end of the car has just gotten away from him there. This is a very blind chicane as well. Let's not forget that. That corner, look, it's almost completely blind. You have to, as soon as you see the edge of the barriers, you have to be on the brakes, as Cynical's gotten a 5-place grid penalty for illegal blocking. I wonder where he's done that. Let's just look at Ryan Rods here. Where is the ideal you start braking, even before you get to the end of the Pirelli advertisements there on the right side? That is going to be very tricky when it comes time for the race. I would assume this lap is going to be out the window here for Jake Thomas, unless his previous lap had more mistakes, and the recharge light is on. That will be the end. Cali Robb is not starting one, is not on one at the moment. I believe this next one he will be. Shirai Coleslaw on an outlap behind. Is there anybody on a time lap behind them? It looks like Electric Blade is, what did that say, about 0.2 of a second quicker through Sector 1. Now making his way out of Treasure Island here. Past the Mirage, down the strip. See what kind of speeds he gets here. About 30% battery left. I feel like that's kind of not a lot. He's going to peak at 221 by the time he gets into the braking zone of Cosmopolitan. Oh, he's taken a lot of the curb there. How is he not invalidated? He's gone clean across that, hasn't he? Electric Blade through Harmon Avenue now. Let's see, where is this going to put him at the line? It's a 132.811. Improves by almost 5.5 tenths. Moves himself within the top 10. He's P8 at the moment. Beats out Cynical by less than 5/100ths of a second. Not a bad lap at all from Electric Blade. And once again, the quality of the grid here in Division 1 does seem to be very much competitive, has to be said. Let's see, is anybody coming on a time lap behind them? It looks like his teammate of Scavney, who we saw in the medium tires earlier, so we're going to go and assume this is going to be a much better lap from Scavney. It is 134.930, second and a half better. Does not improve in the timing charts, though. He's gone straight past into turn 1. I believe there's just that car behind him. I believe is that the Alpine of Jimmy Murphy. Could be. Got Palmer, 131.532. That is the fastest lap of the session so far, and he's put 1/3 of a second back to Ryan Rods, who's making his way out of the sphere now and down Sands Avenue. It's going to be one of the few races I actually prefer keeping the telemetry on. I'm just so curious about the speeds that they're going to be reaching here. Oh, a little bit of wiggle there on the back end, not really enough to be worried about. 6 minutes to go in the session. The highest speed we've seen so far is 221. And that was by Electric Blade. One of the slowest we saw. I don't know if it was race day. I'm kind of forgetting who it was at this point. 220 at the braking zone there for Ryan Rods. Purple Sector 2 in the process. Through Cosmopolitan he goes, up Harmon Avenue. He's got the Haas to the inside there. That one's not going to worry him. Coming to the end of the lap here. He's not got a lot of battery, that's for sure. I think that's going to be a huge factor in this race as he goes 131.437. Beats Palmer by 1/10 just about. Has to be said, I think conservation of the ERS is going to be so important here today. There's just not many heavy braking zones in order to recharge that battery. As we got about 5 minutes left in the session here. Got the Haas of Scavney behind him, as well as I believe is that the Alpine of Jimmy Murphy making his way in towards Cosmopolitan now. And this is not going to be the lap to look out here for Murphy. Behind them, it looks like, is that the Red Bull of Shariah? Yes, he is making his way down the strip now. I don't think this is going to be the lap to look out for. He's about 4 seconds slower than he was last time. The two Mercedes drivers, are they performing a tow here? It very well could be, as VTEC is out ahead. Edwin, currently not far behind. Edwin doesn't seem to be on, well, he's not on a timed lap, is he? Tell you what, that would have been very helpful in the case of Edwin if that tow was performed. I tell you what, That advantage is going to mean so much. VTech goes 132.881, able to put himself into 11th place. Clears, Kate Thomas by 11 one-thousandths of a second. Very, very competitive grid here so far. A second and a half separate all the top 13 drivers. And I think as far as Jimmy, Gunner, Swee, and Scavney are concerned, I tell you what, I think they will be putting in a better lap here shortly. Ryan Rods, I don't think this is going to be a lap for him. No, it won't. VTech is going to be on an in-lap here shortly, as Jamie Murphy's retired. Race day does look as if he's on a time lap, but, well, actually, I'm not sure if that's even true. No, his light's on. That'll be it there. For him, do we have the Alfa Romeo on track? It's Kate Thomas, who's on an out lap here with 3.5 minutes to go. Whatever happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Time to crack open a cold one. There we go. I am a sucker for twisted tea, I'll tell you that much. Kate Thomas here currently occupies P12. Once again, he's 11 one-thousandths behind VTech, and I'm not really sure where on this circuit you're going to make that up. So what, Ryan Rods has to have the ultimate low downforce setup here, I would have to assume. Everyone else, I think, may or may not be concerned with stability. That's a fair point, in honesty. A lot of times on this track, you can get out of sorts. At least what I've noticed. Of course, I'm by no means the caliber of a Division I driver, so it could just be that I'm terrible. However, it has to be said, there are some spots on this track that will catch you out by surprise. Especially some of these blind corners here in the first sector, like that there, exiting turn 2 towards Koval, and down in towards Caesars Forum here at the end of the straight. That could prove to be difficult because a lot of these corners, you just simply can't see what's on the other side of them, as Kate Thomas now makes his way towards the Sphere. Ahead of him, a lot of drivers out, or, well, behind him, rather. Ryan Rods, Palmer, Edwin, Race Day, Scornsy, Aero Racing Design, and Callie Robb have all decided to go out on outlaps here. With 2 minutes to go in the session, it's going to be one final dash to pole position. At the moment, Ryan Rods, I wouldn't say it's a comfortable lap. I think Palmer could find something there, but concerning the rest of the top 10, outside of a half a second behind, in fact, the top 2, the only drivers within 0.4 of a second of Ryan Rods here. So it has to be said, I think Ryan Rods and Palmer really have something here that maybe just the rest of the grid hasn't figured out yet, as VTech has gone and retired in the pits. Kate Thomas making his way down the strip here. He's gone past the Bellagio at this point. In towards Cosmopolitan, it's 221. Top speed for the Alfa Romeo. Feel like that's been the average so far. If you're not at 220 at the end of it, I think it's slightly slower. Every single mile per hour counts here. That's going to be, what we look out for. Kate Thomas around the final corner at Topgolf goes P10, 132.820, only improves by 7 100ths after it's all said and done. Behind him, it looks as if, is that the Alpine of Aero Racing Design? Is he starting one? Yes, he is, making his way now through the first paces of the lap. And look how razor-thin margin he is to the inside walls then. That was incredible, it has to be said. I've never seen those first few corners taken so smoothly, as he makes his way towards Caesars Forum in the rest of the Sphere sector here. Little bit of hesitation, perhaps getting on throttle, has to be said. In front of him, is that the Alfa Romeo of Swee, perhaps? No, it must be Cake, because he's just finished one. Yeah, well, he's getting out of the way either way. So we'll go along with Aero Racing Design to the end of the lap here. Everyone else behind him is coming on their final timed attempt, so it's going to be a real battle at the line here. Light work has gone off. That's in the pits, thankfully. Out of Treasure Island he goes, down the strip. Let's see what kind of speeds he's pulling. He was the first one we saw that we were on with. He was out 220, entering Cosmopolitan. Cynical's done all he can do. He goes P8, Gunner, P15, Caesar, P18. At Bellagio and into Cosmopolitan, he's about a quarter of a second faster. 220 and entering the braking zone. Down Harmon Avenue he goes towards Topgolf in the end of the lap here. Let's see if he's got anything extra. If he was able to put on anything extra to the end of this lap. But to the line goes Aero Racing Design, 132.10. improves up to 5th. Behind him, next up, I believe, is the Ferrari. It's Race Day coming through the final paces of the lap now. He was half a second quicker through the second sector. Let's see if Race Day has anything here. To the line he goes. P3 at the moment. Behind him, it's Scornsy. Coming through the final corner at Topgolf, he goes P4. So finally, Ryan Rods, the Ferrari of Cali Rob, and then one of the Haas drivers is Ryan Rods, 131.353. Currently fastest. Cali Rob, all he can do is P6. Next up, the Haas of Electric Blade. Sorry, actually, it's Scavney who's gone P16. The Williams of Palmer, all he can manage is second place. It doesn't look like he's going to improve. Only other driver so far is Shariah, making his way through Topgolf now. And at the line goes Shariah. He will manage to get into the top 10. It's a 132.257. And that will end your qualifying session. So Ryan Rods gets Palmer by 1/10 of a second. Very, very close qualifying session there. I tell you what, we may be in for a great Grand Prix here. Hope so, at least. So Ryan Rod's on pole, Palmer in second. Race Day managed to get within 3/10 of the pole time. Scornsy 4th, Edwin 5th, Cali Robin 6th. Good result for the Ferrari so far. Aero Racing Design 7th, 8th is Shariah, 9th is Cynical, although he does have a 5-place grid penalty. 10th is Electric Blade, 11th is Cake Thomas, 12th is Lightwork. That is your 2.5 gap. VTech 13th, 14th is Murphy's, 15th is Gunner, 16th Scavney. 17th is Sweet, 18th is Caesar. Unfortunately for Caesar and Houdini, they didn't get a chance to put together a time lap. But I tell you what, the competitiveness that I'm seeing of this grid, if these margins are correct in the race, we're going to have so much action here. It's going to be absolutely mind-blowing. So here we are then, ladies and gentlemen, on the strip, in the paddock for what is sure to be a very memorable Grand Prix here. It's either going to be for good reasons or bad reasons. You never know. That's just the reality behind it. But very pleased to be able to join Division 1 in this absolutely monumental Grand Prix here. I might like to remind you, Midwest F1 brought to you by Raise Energy and Epos Audio. As we look at the constructor standings, Ferrari sit atop the table 198. As we saw in the qualifying session, one of the more consistent teams we had. Aston Martin second at 174. Red Bull 158. They lead Williams by 1 at 157. They lead Alpine by 2 at 156. AlphaTauri 125. That's P6 for them. Mercedes 111. McLaren 91. Alfa Romeo 26. And Haas at 24. So far this season, the first 2 rounds had been taken by Gott Palmer. A driver that's, I don't want to say has necessarily flown under the radar these past couple of seasons here, but a driver that I feel at times were slightly overshadowed perhaps by Scornsy, Race Day, and that of Ryan Rods, but he's here now. And if he wasn't able to say it before, he's able to say it now. Multi-time Division 1 race winner. As we are now officially an hour and a half away from... Oh, look at this. Look at the grid. It's bent round the corner. That is very odd. I tell you what. Can we just see... Look at the back end of the grid here. That is a very odd place to have a grid. You see that? It's bent round the final corner at Topgolf. That is very strange. Anyways, let's look at the tire strategies here. We've got, I tell you what, I would say it's not necessarily a clean mix, but it is definitely a mix. Got the majority on the medium still. Ryan Rods has chosen the hards off the start. Edwin in P5 on the hards as well. Cynical on the hards, Scavney on the hards, and Gunner, Caesar, and Houdini have all taken the softs. Slightly bold decision there, but again, I feel like what we've seen so far is that if you take those medium tires off the start, you're going to be set if the early safety car happens. 25-lap Grand Prix here, 90-second lap time roughly. Very high speed. Again, not very sure what it's like in the terms of degradation. We do know the cars are going to be in the straight line. The tire pressure is going to be all the way up as they can to, decrease the rolling resistance, get more straight line speed. Fastest we saw was 221, as Ryan Rods leads them at Treasure Island. And then down the strip, there's your strategy there, 12 to 16, so about halfway through. So, you know, maybe the hearts could last longer. Yeah, I don't know. This is a very interesting turn of events here. I'm not really sure how we're going to play this one. Again, there was a time that I kept such accurate data on tire strategies, but I found it so much more interesting if I just didn't. Yeah, call it lazy, but I think it's a lot more interesting. You know, think about it like real F1. They don't know what the tires are going to do. They have estimations. They don't know until they go out on track and find out. I mean, look at Qatar. They could have never have guessed the calamities that were happening with the tires at Qatar. But Ryan Rodds leads the grid round the top golf corner. And they're going to be lining up on the grid here shortly. And Ryan Rodds has gone past the grid. I guess he'd forgotten where the grid was. Slightly odd. Lining up to his inside is Scott Palmer. Not the farthest run into the first corner, and the first corner looks like it'll have at least 2 lanes through. It's going to be coming out of the first corner, and then finally getting onto the straight and onto Caesars Forum at turn 5. That's going to be the tricky part, and we'll have to wait and see what the grid has in store here, as Houdini is the last driver forming up here. And now, for the first time ever in Division 1, the lights are turning on here in Las Vegas. 4 and 5. Place your bets, ladies and gentlemen. Cynical and Scavney have jumped the start. The lights are out, and Ryan Rodds does get a good start. To his inside is Palmer. I would argue Palmer actually did end up getting a better one, but round the outside is Ryan Rodds. Is he able to keep it? No, Palmer is going to clear him. By the time they get in towards Koval Lane, exiting turn 2, 3, and 4, and as they go down the straight now, there's Race Day along the right side. Wanted to have a peek down to the inside as they head into Caesars Forum at turn 5. Down to the inside is Aero Racing Design. Wanted to have a look at the Mercedes. It wasn't there. Ahead, Race Day trying to peek his head round the outside as they head into the Sphere. This chicane here, it's a blind corner. This corner may just cause some calamity as Race Day and Ryan Rodds side by side as they go down towards Sands Avenue now. All the while, Scott Palmer is leading the grid here by over a second and a half as it's a 3-car battle for the second spot. Look at the intensity between these three as they head towards Treasure Island. To the inside is Scornsey. Ryan Rodds is checked up. He's lost the spot. Exiting Treasure Island they go, and it looks as if Race Day has taken the spot. Scornsey's taken second. Ryan Rodds has had a tremendously terrible start, and I'm not sure if it was his fault or just everything happening around him, but he has lost several positions here, as it's going to be 3 wide, heading down the strip. Oh my goodness, I tell you what, I bet the Race Photos channel is going to be brilliant after this one, as Kate Thomas pulls ahead of the AlphaTauri and the Red Bull then, as Scornsey and Race Day has actually been overtaken there, heading into Cosmopolitan. Scornsey's come out on top, and Scott Palmer, after the first lap of the Grand Prix, has a 2.5 second lead, as Lightwork and Cake Thomas were side by side for just a minute there, as they head into Top Golf. Cake on the inside, and he had to lift and back out, or else he was going to be chopped into the inside wall. Now around the outside, Cake's gone well deep into the first corner here, is going to get overtaken by the Haas of Electric Blade on the inside. Ryan Rodds here in the slipstream of Race Day. He's not going to have DRS this time down Koval Lane. He will next time, as Electric Blade now getting around Lightwork as they head into Caesars Forum at turn 5. Ryan Rodds here really trying to shake down Race Day, is within 0.2 of a second into the chicane at the Sphere. Oh, I tell you what, the back end of the car just got away then from Race Day, but Ryan Rodds had trouble on the raised curb on the inside. And at the moment, it looks like everybody's gotten away pretty clean. The grid very much forming up in a train behind them. But I tell you what, some brilliant close racing here early, as into Treasure Island they go. Oh, I tell you what, I think Race Day's gone slightly deep, maybe as he hit the wall on the outside. Ryan Rodds looking forward on the Ferrari here to the outside as they go past Caesar's Palace. It looks as if, yes, Ryan Rodds is going to get him. We got the Haas of Scavney off at the back. All the while, these two have opened up a 1.5 seconds ahead to Scornsey, who has now 2 seconds behind them. But once again, Race Day had a look to the inside, wasn't there. Edwin in behind wants to perhaps find a way into this battle. He'll have to settle for 5th at the moment as they head up Harmon Avenue in towards Top Golf turn 17. As it looks as if Aero Racing Design kind of looking into this battle, not quite there yet. Electric Blade has fallen 2 seconds behind the top 6 drivers here. And what I'm very concerned as to why that is. Everyone else behind him is very close in Delta here, but Electric Blade seems to have fallen back as he perhaps, on a slower setup. But, I tell you what, Cake Thomas has gone around. He spun it, going through turn 2. He's on the apex of the corner. Now, you have to take it wide anyways, but still not a great place to go off. And Cake Thomas, his first trip into Vegas, unfortunately, he's gone bankrupt. Side by side is Shariah and Lightwork here as they go in towards the sphere, and Cali Rob wants in on this as well, and Cali Rob is going to look for it down the inside. Lightwork hits into the wall on his own error. And the back end of the car is going to get away from him. I tell you what, Lightwork is in a whole mess of trouble here as Cali Rob is right close to overtaking him. We'll check back with them in a minute as now Race Day, Ryan Rods, and Edwin make their way in towards Treasure Island and back down the strip again. As they head down the strip this time, Ryan Rods here is really under pressure from Race Day with the aid of DRS and the battery. What kind of speeds are they hitting as they head down the strip, this time past Hell's Kitchen and with the Bellagio on the right? And he'll max out at 218 as they get in towards Cosmopolitan. Well, something's happened there with Shariah Coleslaw, perhaps. He's fallen at least 1 or 2 spots as Murphy's been overtaken by VTech there. He's fallen back down to 12th. Cali Rob in DRS here of Lightwork. I say DRS, he's within 2/10. Down to the inside is Cali Rob, side by side over the bump before the start-finish straight. And Shariah is going to have to sit and wait and hope that the 2 drivers ahead of him make some sort of a mistake. Because at the moment, it does look as if Shariah is going to have to be patient with these 2. They do have some great pace, but the more that they battle, the more they fall behind. As at the moment, Cali Rob, as he battles with Lightwork, has a 3-second gap to Electric Blade in front of him. It looks as if the top couple of drivers have started to spread themselves out here. Closest battle, Ryan Rod's about 6.5 tenths to Race Day. Edwin about 6 tenths there, and we have a virtual safety car on track. It looks as if the Haas of Scavney has lost the entirety of his front wing here. Now he's gone off. That's at Planet Hollywood and Cosmopolitan, turn 14 and 15. And I'm hoping it's off the track. It does look as if it's going to stay the virtual safety car. That will neutralize the grid for now. As Scavney is going to be the first driver to retire here in Vegas. As they make their way down the strip here, let's take a look at the positions gained and lost. I tell you what, it's been a fair bit of shuffling about here. Every driver on the grid, barring Race Day and GSR Edwin, has moved up or down in some fashion. That, I tell you what, is a pretty neat sight to see. 0.5 of a second here with Lightwork and Cali Rob as they make their way up Harmon Avenue towards Top Golf and the start-finish line. It's now a second between Scornsey and Gott Palmer as they weave their way through the first couple of corners down Koval Lane towards Caesars Forum, turn 5. No DRS for Scornsey yet. But if he keeps it up, he'll be there in no time. At the moment, they're about even on battery. 38, about between 38 to 40 for Scornsey, 41 for Palmer. Into the sphere corner they go. Wow, I didn't realize how close the sphere is to the track there. That is right distracting, that. Well, it's 2/10. Oh, look at the back end of the car. Came around there for Electric Blade. He locked up on the way into the sphere corner. The sphere chicane, and, well, thankfully he didn't get into Aero Racing Design ahead because you could see that car was struggling. Couldn't quite get the car back down. That almost went bad. Oh, Race Day has had a huge incident going in towards Treasure Island, turn 12, and the door has been flung wide open for Ryan Rods here. Race Day has completely overshot the braking zone in towards that 12th turn, and Ryan Rods will get around him well before. But let's see if Race Day is actually able to strike back here. DRS is one thing, but Race Day has actually been able to stay relatively close as Electric Blade getting around Aero Racing Design there. I tell you what, with how much these cars are at full bore on the rev limiter here, I tell you what, it wouldn't be a surprise to me if we did see some mechanical failures this weekend as Scornsey battling with Palmer here for the top spot. This battle was about 2.5 seconds after the opening 2 laps of the Grand Prix. It's now within 0.3. Palmer's either struggling or Scornsey's either found his rhythm. It's a tenth and a half. DRS activated. And he's actually turned off his DRS there. That's interesting. It was on. The button prompt came up, he turned it on, and then it went back off. So Scornsy, I think, probably could have had a opportunity there. It's not been taken. Going through the sphere chicane now. Exiting the corner with the monorail on the right-hand side. Oh, this is interesting. This is actually... Huh, I didn't notice that. That's the TV pod cam. That's the cam I use in the race setting. That is... Or when I drive, that is actually transpired over to the game for this camera angle. That is mighty interesting, that. I've never known that. Well, anyways, 0.5 of a second here between Scornsy and Palmer. DRS activated here for the Aston Martin. Is he going to look to the inside? Yes, he will. It took him long enough. It took some thinking to do, but he does clear. Got Palmer by the time they head into Cosmopolitan. And oh, by the way, Race Day and Ryan Rod side by side in towards Cosmopolitan. Oh, not a lot of room there yet. Race Day's just kind of lost position. He's fallen down to 4th place now. Also under pressure from Edwin here. Still about 0.2 of a second between these two. Atop the grid at the moment. DRS activated for Palmer, 0.3 of a second in closing. As they head into turn 5, yeah, he had a peak, not quite there. And I think Race Day had that same sort of thing, was looking for it on Ryan Rod's, not quite close enough. As they head into the sphere chicane here. Tell you what, Scornsy didn't look as if he had the best entry to it. It looks like he's actually gone out okay. It was a slightly unconventional line he took. As they go down Sands now, making their way towards Treasure Island here at turn 12. Well, to be more specific, there's the Wynn right next to it, and then Treasure Island not that far afterwards. Remember there, that used to be the volcano that they had. Well, anyways, here's Palmer. 0.3 of a second in closing now. Does he have a look down to the inside? Yes, he does. Scornsy initially defended the inside, slid up the track to the outside, and got Palmer's taking the lead, and then puts another 0.2 by the time they even get to the braking zone. My goodness me. Is Aero Racing Design an electric blade? Well, Aero Racing Design gets around the Haas by the time they get into Cosmopolitan. Exiting the corner up Harmon Avenue, and it does look as if... Well, Callie Robb's actually done well. He's holding on to this battle. As ahead... Oh, Ryan Rods has gone well deep through the first corner. He's going to lose the spot, I believe, to both Race Day and Edwin at that point. That was an odd mistake there from Ryan Rods, has to be said. DRS activated for these two as they head down Cove Hall Lane, trying to get closer to Race Day. But all the while, when you're the head of the DRS train like Race Day is, like the leader of the Grand Prix, when you're in that DRS section and you're just punching the air out of the way for everybody else behind you as we have a yellow flag exiting the first corner. Not sure what that was, but we've seen now so many lead changes between these two because simply there's so much air being punched a hole into from the leader that in this straight in particular, Scornsy is just easily able to get around him. Although I will say, Scornsy this time hasn't gotten the cleanest exit out of Treasure Island. He starts the straight about 0.9 of a second behind Got Palmer here, but he is starting to close in. DRS still activated. Past Hell's Kitchen, then Paris on the inside. I tell you what, he's still got a fair look at getting him. I tell you what, I think if you're within 0.7 of a second beginning that straight, I tell you what, I think you got a fair shot of the overtake by the time you get to Cosmopolitan. It looks like Electric Blade has actually lost 2 spots in that ordeal. Callie Robb and Aero Racing Design both go down the inside, and I believe Electric Blade was the head of that DRS train, as behind VTEC has overtaken Lightwork, and Shirai Coleslaw in this as well. Shirai doesn't seem like he's had the best start. He's down 3 positions. Ryan Rod still, I would argue, has had the worst start. Cake Thomas down 6, I'll be that. But GSR Ryan Rod's from starting, on pole position, And we thought that taking the hards off the start was going to be a risk. We didn't know that it was going to be that detrimental to him. It just looked like the car was struggling so much in the opening paces. Now it looks like he's doing all right. He's within the DRS distance of race day ahead. And the battle here really is to get around Edwin, because naturally at this time, Edwin has a 3-second gap to the top 2 ahead. So really, these three cars here are kind of stuck in this battle for the 3rd spot. But either way, 0.4 of a second here. They exit Treasure Island. I tell you what, Scornsy doesn't look as if he's been getting up to speed nearly as fast. Race Day's actually going to overtake Edwin before the corner. Scornsy, down to the inside, uses every bit of the slipstream he had. And again, he started coming out of Treasure Island at turn 12, 0.7 of a second behind. The DRS is just that powerful. He's down to the inside, looks Race Day. He's not going to have it there, I don't think. But still. So the inside is Race Day. They're side by side heading towards Topgolf here. Oh, I tell you what, that was right close. Somehow Ryan Rods didn't make contact. Edwin's going to go from the inside to the outside. Blocks the outside line. Ryan Rods goes to the inside of turn 1. He'll have the outside of turn 2. As Race Day watches along. Beautiful switching back and forth here. Race Day in position now. Looking to thread the needle. If you don't go for a gap that exists, you're no longer a racing driver. Well, I tell you what, Race Day nearly had the gap to take both of them. They'll have to settle for one now. Scornsy has the lead of this Grand Prix. 0.4 of a second as they go through the Sphere Chicane. Which I believe in the early plans of this track, that was supposed to be more of like a continuous left-hander like we had at Sochi. What was it, the 3rd corner at Sochi? And then we had, I believe that you could say at Circuit of the Americas as well, the triple right-hander. Very similar to that, but they did add a chicane there. As that camera angle gave you the shot of the win in the Mirage. Not the Mirage, the Encore. Down Las Vegas Boulevard now. Past Hell's Kitchen they go. Got Palmer in DRS here. 220. And it was so funny. I was just watching the telemetry there. The car slowed down an additional 2 miles an hour by the time he simply got out of the slipstream, having overtaken Scornsy in towards Cosmopolitan at turn 12. This is going to have to be a record for overtaking or something, like genuine on-track overtakes. This is ridiculous. Electric Blade, as I say what now, sorry, Race Day's on his way in. That's an early stop there. Has he hit the wall? Is he having damage? It's an unplanned stop for the Ferrari. Hard tires going on. You can see the crew did not look ready. Race Day has decided to undercut a lot of the grid here, as Aero Racing Design has picked up some sort of penalty, 3 seconds penalty. 0.3 of a second here. Into the Sphere Chicane they go. Scornsy doing his best. He knows he's not really going to get him through this section of the track. I tell you what, if only we had DRS going up Harmon Avenue, that would actually be quite interesting. Because at the moment, the cars are being... Oh, we got an off there. It's Aero Racing Design off at the Sphere Chicane on the inside of the first section of the chicane. Has he hit anything? Well, I'm not rightly sure. He goes back out on track in front of Race Day there. Doesn't look as if he's hit anything, but either way, not ideal for Aero Racing Design, but he maintains P6. Less than a 10th here. Overtake made by the time they get to Hell's Kitchen. And Scornsy is going to get it, and then put an additional 10.5 on Palmer by the time they get to turn 14. See, because I think DRS up this straight here would have to be almost necessary as Race Day getting around Aero Racing, because you can see how close they are exiting Cosmopolitan and Planet Hollywood, turn 14, 15, and 16. And I think they're definitely close enough to set up some sort of move coming out of those corners. But I tell you what, just having the 2 DRS zones is providing quite enough, has to be said. As Cali Robb on his way in now, so double early stops here from the Ferrari. Or are they early? Aero Racing Design is coming as well. I'm starting to think this is about the suggested time. No, that's a front wing going on for Aero Racing Design. Looks like he has hit something in his off last time by at the Sphere. Unfortunate for him. But not too far out of the way for a planned stop at least, so I guess it could have been worse. 0.4 of a second as they go down Sands Avenue past the Wynn and in towards Treasure Island. DRS is going to be activated here. Palmer is actually... I tell you what, both of these drivers have actually done a great job saving up as much energy store as they can. Palmer around the outside, and he's going to get that one relatively with ease. I tell you what, such back and forth here. 0.5 of a second. Behind them, Edwin and Ryan Rod side by side. They're going to be swapping positions as they go into Cosmopolitan. Behind them, it does look as if Electric Blade and Cali Rob battling it out here. They're going to be nearly side by side before getting into DRS. Past Caesar's Palace they go, and Electric Blade is going to get around Cali Rob. He's got a 5-second penalty. Not sure why he has a 5-second penalty, but either way. Well, Ryan Rod just picked up... Well, I tell you what, Ryan Rod's 5-second penalty, severe collision. What did that say? Edwin. Did he hit Edwin going into the pit lane? Well, Edwin, by the time we went on with him, by the time we got that message, was in the pit lane. I'm going to assume Ryan Rods perhaps got into the back of the Mercedes as they made their way into the pit lane. That is very odd. Scornsy having a look at Palmer here, still at turn 5. Westchester Drive, they go into the Sphere chicane. Scornsy and Palmer, fresh pit stops for these two. I tell you what, I think it's going to be a fair shout. It's going to be a battle between these two towards the end of the Grand Prix. Halfway distance completed here. 0.4 of a second or less as they head in towards Treasure Island at turn 12. Exiting the corner, Palmer did not get a good exit that time. Scornsy's going to be right down the inside. Side by side with Palmer here, and I tell you what, that is going to be a relatively easy move to be made for Scornsy. Yet again, but all the while, Race Day, who we thought took an undercut, is actually now very much within this battle for the lead. 1.2 seconds, although we have seen, as Ryan Rod's getting down the inside of Edwin here, we have seen Race Day make a couple of mistakes so far. The car has gotten away from him, most notably the braking zone in towards turn 12 at Treasure Island. So hopefully for his sake, he's been able to, gather up the car. And we can have ourselves a 3-car battle here for the lead. Ryan Rod's on the 5-second penalty for... Still, we don't really know how that happened or why. But either way, it has happened. I tell you what, as long as these two have DRS, I think it's going to be tricky for Race Day. As the grid with these pit stops is starting to fan out just a little bit. As Palmer doing his best, trying to wear Scornsy down here. These again are the raised curb going through the chicane at the Sphere. Race Day still 1.4, and Race Day on 30% batteries, the 2 cars ahead of him in surplus of 60. So Race Day's going to have a little bit of work to do. I think he's going to have to genuinely outpace the 2 cars ahead of him here for just a little bit, and I think maybe has his opportunities gotten past him, because when you think about it, their tires, these two, are definitely going to be warm now. If they weren't before, they definitely are, and that's going to prevent Race Day from really getting a good shot, or an easy shot at these two. I think he is just going to have to do it on sheer pace. Meanwhile, Edwin, within 0.5 of a second of Ryan Rods, as they make their way down the strip towards, past the Bellagio now, in towards Cosmopolitan. And they're not quite going to get close enough to make anything happen. Palmer, the fastest lap, of 1:34.842. As Lightwork getting around Cynical there. That actually... No, that is going down the strip there. 0.6 of a second between Edwin and Ryan Rods. Again, Ryan Rods having the 5-second penalty for what we don't know. Scorsese and Palmer still battling for the lead here. Next time by is going to be 10 laps to go here in the inaugural Vegas Grand Prix for Division 1. 0.4 of a second now. All the while, it has to be said, Race Day is not necessarily getting closer to this battle. If anything, he's almost kind of fallen off, has to be said. It's about 1.7. That was about 2 seconds. He's going to have to wait for these two to, I think, battle it out here. But I think these two have kind of realized that the overtaking zone is, going down the strip. I don't think they're going to necessarily make the move into a corner. I think that's what Race Day is going to be frustrated with here, because he's going to count on Scorsese having to make a move, and Palmer obviously having to defend, but it's not going to happen into a corner. It's going to happen here down the straight. See, there's still, got about 300 meters left in the straight, and again, Scorsese wasn't necessarily right up close to the Williams there. He was, not a well ways back, but still, he's made the overtake easily. And neither of the two cars have lost any time behind a Race Day. As long as they keep swapping positions like that, they're going to clear Race Day all day long. As we have a yellow flag. Oh, that looks like a big off then. That's at turn, turn 12. Well, it absolutely has involved Gunner. I'm not sure. It looked as if there was another car exiting the scene of the crime. I think it's one of the Alfa Romeo drivers. Thought we had a bit of a traffic jam there. As it turns out, that wasn't the case, thankfully enough. But what we do know is Gunner has found the wall. I will say Race Day is holding a respectable gap to this battle here. 1.5 seconds is okay. But he has to be closing in. He's not necessarily doing that now. He's staying very stagnant, which is not going to be helpful for his case. Down Sands Avenue they go, in towards Treasure Island, turn 12. Exiting the corner, it's 6.6. Yeah, 6.5 exiting the corner. And where is Palmer going to overtake him here? Here's Hell's Kitchen on the right-hand side. And only about halfway down the straight. So I tell you what, 0.7 of a second is good enough for half a strip of an overtake there. That's, I guess, the metric that we're looking at here. All the while, Race Day has lost an additional 0.5 second to this battle ahead. Although I think it's more or less Race Day does seem to be slightly struggling. I tell you what, Race Day, very talented driver in his own right, hasn't looked that comfortable today, has to be said. There has been times where it just doesn't look as if he's been all there, necessarily. And I don't mean that in a mean way, but it has to be said. As Scorsese trying it down around the outside here, exiting the second and third corner. Well, down the straight they go. And that's the AlphaTauri! Ryan Rods has gone off! Well, Ryan Rods has had a bit of a spin coming to the Rochelle Avenue intersection of turn 3 and 4. And he's lost a bunch of time then. He's going to have P5. Electric Blade behind him also has a 5-second penalty, but now finds himself 13.5 seconds to the rest of the top 4. I tell you what, this may be helpful, though. I'm only just noticing this now. As Edwin gets closer, he's on the medium tires as well, 4-lap-old mediums. As Edwin gets closer to Race Day, if Edwin overtakes Race Day and somehow is able... I tell you what, I don't know if Race Day's made a mistake there or what, but he's jutted well to the inside of the track. He's not got wing damage. I don't think he's hit anything, but this is very clever here from Race Day if he's done this on purpose. If he lets Edwin go by, which Edwin has gotten by, and Edwin, being on the medium tires, is somehow able to catch up to the top 2, get within DRS range, that may pull Race Day into the battle. But at the moment, it's still 2 seconds. 1/10 of a second here, Race Day looking forward. He's not necessarily close enough. He's got no battery left, down to the inside, into the first corner, and Edwin's going to keep the outside line. Race Day's going to switch back. He'll have to figure out a way through this section of corners. I tell you what, again, Race Day does seem to be slightly struggling here. I know I've said that a couple times, but now outside of half a second on Edwin, although he is closing in, he does have DRS. Oh, we've got another series of incidents back here. Caesar and Gunner. Something's happened with these two. Caesar and the Williams fleeing the scene of the crime here, and Gunner again has gone off at turn 12. This is Treasure Island. And I'm not sure why or how he's done that, but that he's done. As they make their way into turn 12 now, Scornsy. 6.5 tenths back to Palmer. Again, this is for the lead of the Grand Prix. It's been such a close battle between these two all day long, and it has to be said, it's got to be some sort of record for lead changes here. Almost every single lap we've seen these two. And the incredible thing is they're running so consistent that they're able to stay getting past each other every single lap. This is actually incredible between these two. As we have a yellow flag, this is exiting turn 3. It's Gunner again. I think he's lit up the rear tires, and that's been that. We do have some close going abouts here going up the strip. These cars about within a second of each other. Tell you what, a second looks a lot more far apart than it used to, that's for sure. Uh-oh, Cali Rob, what's happened with him? What's the case with Cali Rob? This is really odd. Why is he... Why has that happened there? Is he retired on track? Where has the Ferrari been stranded? He's at the inside of the circuit. Yeah, I tell you what, I think he's retired on track. He's pulled off to the inside of a Marshall post and called it good. We saw him retire. We didn't quite know where. And that's really going to answer it. Meanwhile, this battle for the third spot, I mean, these two have stayed relatively close to each other, but what they haven't stayed close to is the top two. Now, outside of 3 seconds, it was about 2 seconds when they first got into the battle. Not the case anymore. Palmer down to the inside of Scornsy. Oh, he's not going to have it this time. Palmer's going to stay ahead. Behind, rather. So we've got 6 laps to go this time by. More lead changes than you can count. 2 drivers who have been back and forth for the lead the entirety of the session. And I tell you what, the defending may get crazy when we get towards those final couple of laps, because at this pace, Palmer will overtake Scornsy this lap. Scornsy will overtake Palmer the next lap. Palmer will get Scornsy. Scornsy will get Palmer. Palmer will get Scornsy. Scornsy will get Palmer. So, by my calculations, Palmer will be ahead at the start of the final lap. And Scornsy's going to have to find a way around the Williams. I could be wrong, but that's the trend we've been noticing, okay? I could be wrong. But at this rate, they've been swapping positions every lap. Nearly every lap. But, you know, what's interesting, though, is even if the reason why we're able to get all these battles is because of the fact that, yeah, DRS is happening, but you get around him. Even if you still have DRS, you're still punching such of a hole in the air to the car behind. Like, look, Palmer's going to get around Scornsy here. Okay, and even if Scornsy gets overtaken, we've still got a ways to go down the strip. He's not going to pull ahead because now Palmer is punching the air behind the Scornsy, and Scornsy's able to stay within 0.3 of a second of Palmer despite not having DRS and despite not even using his battery. Oh, but that was a big wiggle that time. That was coming out of turn 16. Thankfully, Scornsy was able to hold on, but 5 laps to go now. And we're on pace for one of the most interesting and exciting Grand Prix of the season, I would assume. I don't know, this is my first trek into Division 1 this year. But safe to say I'm impressed, and I tell you what, but we've only had 2 DNF. That, you know, it hasn't necessarily been a wild race, in the sense of we've had a massive DNF, we've had incidents everywhere. No, it's been a very clean Grand Prix on that front. But the racing, it's here. as they make their way in towards the sphere chicane again. Still, Palmer has the lead. It's 7/10 of a second behind a Scornsy. These two, again, another thing we're going to have to take into account, they're going to have to save up their energy store. Palmer is doing just that. He has enough now. He's at 65%. I assume he's going to save it up to that final lap, and depending on where he is, he's either going to use it on the attack or he's going to use it defensively here. Scornsy isn't necessarily using it right now, but he does have half the battery of what Palmer has. Scornsy does seem to be in slightly a disadvantage here. He will get around Palmer once again, but still, as we look behind, it's a 2/10 of a second battle here for that third spot, as Race Day is going to go down the inside of Edwin as they make their way into Cosmopolitan, and Race Day is going to clear him. I tell you what, this amount of battling for these drivers has to be so draining. Back and forth, every single lap. One mistake and it's all over, and that is going to be such a heartbreaking mistake if you do make it. Meanwhile, just remind you of where we stand as positions gained and lost. Scornsy up that 3 spots. Palmer started second. Race Day started third. Ryan Rod's down 4 spots since the start. I believe that was Lightwork and Aero Racing Design battling it out here. Yes, it is. Oh, that was a big wiggle that time from Aero. From Lightwork, rather. Aero's going to go down the inside. Oh, I tell you what, yeah, he is going to have that going into Topgolf. Very nicely done. Meanwhile, still the top 2 battle. Just about 3.5 laps left to go. Oh, I tell you what, this one's going to come absolutely down to the wire here. Palmer, 0.3 of a second. Again, not using his battery. Scornsy has not conserved enough. That if Scornsy does lose this race, it's going to be because he has not saved up the energy store. Palmer, 65%, Scornsy, 30%. And by the way, Palmer doesn't look as if he's touched it much at all. Oh, look at this. The only section of the track so far that we've seen him use it is coming down Harmon Avenue here. And he only just uses it to get away. In fact, that's where Scornsy used it as well, in fairness. I guess it is just the acceleration out of Cosmopolitan and Planet Hollywood turns 14, 15, and 16. It is really just getting away. Palmer moves down to the inside. That's the first time, at least from these two, that we've seen some form of defensive move to try and break the toe. I tell you what, too much weaving on the strip, though. That's going to cause calamity. Right there is fine. Scornsy at the moment is not in position to overtake Palmer. He's 0.8 of a second behind, but still, we have seen the overtake happen down the strip in excess of 0.7 of a second. So assuming Scornsy is anywhere even close to in position to Palmer here, as long as he stays within DRS range, he will be fine. At the moment, he's only got 0.07 of a second between being in it and being out of it. Oh, and he's hit the wall that time. Has he lost any wing? No, he hasn't. But he will be outside of 1.2 seconds. And he will miss out on DRS. And Scornsy, well, oftentimes said, we don't see Scornsy make mistakes often. He has clearly hit the wall before getting into turn 12. And whether it's impacted his car or not, that's not so certain. But what we do know, he has now lost a second back to Palmer. And with 2 laps to go, Palmer is on 11% battery here. All he has to do is remain outside of DRS range, and it will be his race. Side by side between these two here. Lightwork and Aero. And Aero is going to get overtaken again by the AlphaTauri. Not a lot in the way of penalties. That's good news. We're not going to see a race depending on penalties here. That's a plus. Again, this race has to be some sort of record for lead changes. Absolutely wild. As Shiraya and Lightwork this time, that's heading in towards Topgolf. This is what your upcoming schedule looks like here with about a lap and a half left to go. No race next week for Thanksgiving. We head to Abu Dhabi on November 30th. Circuit Spa on December 7th. Mexico on December 14th. Qatar, December 21st. December 28th for Hungary. And that will round out the year of 2023. As we head into the second half, well, I say the second half, at that point it'll be the second half of Season 11. What we can tell you is this: Palmer is about a lap away from taking the inaugural Midwest F1 Vegas Grand Prix. It's been a very action-packed race. Only the one virtual safety car. We've seen so many overtaking. It's almost incredible, actually, how much overtaking we have seen today. Spaceman, if you get a chance, you need to come in and watch this video because I think we have absolutely set a new record for lead changes. Two seconds here from Palmer back to Scornsey, and it has to be said, Scornsey gave it all he got, and I think maybe if it just wasn't for that mistake a couple of laps ago heading into turn 12, we may have had ourselves an unbelievable race to the finish here. So while the finish may not be all the spectacular, what has been spectacular is today's Grand Prix, it has to be said. No matter which way you cut it, we have seen some great racing. It's a damn sight better than Miami, at least. I tell you what, maybe a slight error there from race day. Palmer making his way down the strip for the final time, heading towards Cosmopolitan past the Bellagio. And now as he makes his way into Cosmopolitan and up Harmon Avenue, for the final time, Gott Palmer has had to battle back and forth with Scornsey all day. But at the end of the day, Gott Palmer has played his cards correctly, has walked in with the dead man's hand, and will walk out a winner at the Vegas Grand Prix here in Division 1. Scornsey second. Very hard-fought battle for him. And now, coming down to the line for the final spot, both cars go around! Edwin and Race Day crash into the final corner! And somehow, some way, Ryan Rods will take the third spot as Edwin comes up short of the line by mere feet. What in the hell? They were side by side. Race Day had the inside, and around they went. That promotes Electric Blade to fourth, VTech to fifth. Wow. Well, what we do know is Palmer has the win, Scornsey second, Ryan Rods somehow third. Well, after it's all said and done here, under the night sky in Las Vegas, Palmer takes the win, Scornsey second, Ryan Rod somehow got third, Blade fourth, VTEC fifth, Lightwork sixth, seventh is Shariah, eighth, Air Racing Design, ninth, Cynical, 10th, Cake Thomas, 11th is Murphy, 12th is Houdini, 13th is Sweet, 14th, Caesar, 15th, Edwin, 16th, Race Day, and unfortunately, well, for Edwin, Race Day, Gunner, Callie Robbins, Scavney, they did not find the end of the Grand Prix. Well, I tell you what, no race next week, but everybody, I hope you have a very happy Thanksgiving. And I tell you what, you may be in for a show this weekend in real life. Hotspot's been a pleasure joining you up this week in Division 1 this time. We'll see you next time.